Being a college professor is a unique occupation. Unlike a high school teacher or a university professor who simply need to acquire expertise in an academic field, college professors need to demonstrate mastery in the field for which they teach and develop teaching expertise to organize and deliver curriculum. To be effective, they need to enter teaching with this expertise or acquire it while they are teaching. This is a pictorial profile of Professor Carl Toole. Carl was a camp counselor at Camp Opemikon when he was first introduced to the field of developmental disabilities. Carl volunteered to assist with camp maintenance for the last 2 weeks of August when the camp was rented to the Rideau Regional Center. At first, Carl was reluctant to be around persons with developmental disabilities. However, he quickly became friends with the kitchen crew, who were all developmentally disabled, and the staff, who encouraged him to consider working in the field. The following winter, Carl saw an advertisement for Camp Aishon, a summer camp for children and adults with developmental disabilities, run by the Ottawa Carleton Association for the Mentally Retarded, and the predecessor to Camp Misquah. Carl was hired as a camp counselor and worked as a counselor for 2 summers. It was there that he met some staff who were studying mental retardation counseling at Algonquin College, now the DSW program. Carl applied to and was accepted into the MRC program following his graduation from Rideau High School. For the following 3 summers, Carl was the program director at Camp Aishon. Because of his experience at Camp Aishon, Carl was hired to run a recreation program for adults with developmental disabilities at the YMYWCA. Because of his growing interest in recreation, Carl had the opportunity to do a second-year placement at the Nepean Sportsplex, working in the Special Needs Recreation Department. Impressed with his work in recreation, his supervisors encouraged him to pursue a career in recreology. Carl was the class representative in his final year in the MRC program. He wrote a letter to the chair suggesting the information students were receiving for the recreation course violated the principles of normalization and did not focus on adults with severe developmental disabilities, and listed 12 topics he felt should be covered in the course. This letter was to have a major impact on Carl's teaching career. Following his final summer at Camp Aishon, Carl applied for, was interviewed, and accepted to work at Rideau Regional Center. Carl worked on East 6A, a ward for women with severe developmental disabilities and behavioral challenges. At the same time, he applied for the recreology program at the University of Ottawa. Once he was accepted at the University of Ottawa, Carl left Rideau Regional Center to travel in Europe, which included stops in Avignon, the home of Victor, and L'Arche, just north of Paris, where he worked with Jean Vanier for a month. Carl commenced his studies in recreology. During the summer, he ran Clifford Bowie Summer School for Ottawa Parks and Recreation, Sunshine Teen Camp for teens with physical disability, the Canterbury Adult Club for adults with developmental disabilities, and Penny Forest Day Camp for Nepean Parks and Recreation. In his final year at university, Carl was approached by the coordinator of the Developmental Service Worker program to teach the recreation course, as he had remembered the recommendations Carl had made 4 years earlier as a student representative. Following his graduation from university, Carl received a 4-month contract working for Gloucester Parks and Recreation and was employed at Parkway House, a group home for adults with cerebral palsy. When his contract at Gloucester Parks and Recreation concluded, Carl worked full-time at Parkway House as their recreation director. Feeling underemployed at Parkway House, Carl started a bocce tournament called Bocce Mania. The tournament operated in late October for 5 years and attracted approximately 40 athletes with severe cerebral palsy from across Canada. Due to the success of his bocce tournament, Carl was recruited to work as the junior coordinator for cerebral palsy sports in Ontario. During his tenure, Carl headed cerebral palsy sports teams that went to Michigan, Florida, Long Island, and Belgium. Carl used his connections in sports for the disabled by matching high school students with elite athletes with disabilities in a program entitled Focus on Ability. This 1-week course was offered at Algonquin College for 3 consecutive springs. Carl was beginning to teach a number of courses at Algonquin College. Wanting to be a more effective teacher, Carl applied for and was accepted into the Masters of Education program at the University of Ottawa. Carl's studies focused on special education and curriculum development. His thesis was entitled Systematic Recreation Instruction for Adults with Developmental Disabilities. Graduating in December, Carl was once again looking for work. He applied for and was accepted as a residential counselor at First Avenue Group Home, run by the Ottawa District Association for Persons with Developmental Disabilities. After working at First Avenue Group Home for 2 years, Carl was approached about teaching for the college on a full-time basis as a partial load employee. Recognizing that there was a need for crisis intervention training in the field and Algonquin College, Carl enrolled in an instructor certification program in therapeutic crisis intervention in San Francisco. Along with his teaching duties, Carl opened up his own crisis intervention training business. For many years, Carl did the crisis intervention training for Ottawa Carleton Association for Persons with Developmental Disabilities, the Ottawa Carleton School Board, the Ottawa Carleton Catholic School Board, Tamir, the YMYWCA, Center 507, and Children at Risk, to name a few. Carl went on to get his instructor certification in nonviolent crisis intervention, MAN systems, and behavior management systems. Carl remains the only person in Canada with these unique qualifications. Carl is a master trainer in nonviolent crisis intervention. Less than 2% of the trainers around the world have reached this standard of excellence. Carl was asked to teach course material on working with persons with severe developmental disabilities. Carl applied for and was selected as the camp director for Easter Seal Camp for 2 summers at Blue Mountain Camp in Collingwood, Ontario, and 2 summers at Marywood Camp in Port Elmsley, Ontario. Carl supervised 60 staff and was responsible for the experience of 360 campers with physical and developmental disabilities. Many of the pictures that are used in your Persons with Profound Intellectual and Multiple Disabilities course are from his camp experience. Carl left teaching to coordinate the Academic Assistance for Adults with Developmental Disabilities program. However, 6 months after joining the program, funding was cut, and he and 4 of his colleagues were dismissed. When Carl returned to teaching, he was assigned courses which required knowledge in government policy analysis. Recognizing that he lacked expertise in this area, Carl enrolled in a Master's of Social Work program at Carleton University, where he focused almost exclusively on policies that affected persons with developmental disabilities. At the conclusion of the program, Carl joined the staff of the Ottawa Carleton Behavior Management, where he acted as a social work and a behavior management specialist, supporting adults with developmental disabilities. A highlight of his work was supporting parents with developmental disabilities in the Caution Parent Learning Program. Carl's expertise in curriculum development was put to a test when the DSW faculty set out to make the Developmental Service Worker program at Algonquin College the first totally outcome-based program in Ontario. Carl and the DSW team were recognized with the NISOD Award for their efforts. If you're wondering why your courses are made up of a number of smaller practical assessments rather than a major paper, a midterm, and a final exam that you'll find in many other programs at the college, you have Carl and his colleagues to thank for that. Carl was awarded the Laurent Isabelle Award, given annually to the most outstanding teacher at Algonquin College. To date, Carl is still the only active teacher in Health and Community Study Department who has been so honored. An article in the Algonquin Times noted that he was recognized for his integration of technology, his passion for the field of study, and his creativity in developing learning activities as the reasons for the award. Carl was also recognized for his widespread introduction of turning point technology at Algonquin College and his novel use of video online testing. Carl is one of only 4 faculty at Algonquin College to have ever won the Innovation Award. Dave Steele, the IT specialist who nominated Carl for the award, wrote, "Lots of professors talk about instructional technology. Carl is at the forefront of its implementation." Recently, Carl was recognized by the students in his classroom, being nominated for the Student Services Award. The second-year students who nominated him mentioned his reputation in the field, his passion for the field, and his teaching as reasons for their nominations. Carl has also been active in the field of research, publishing articles in The Philanthropist and the Journal of Applied Leisure Research. Carl has been an active presenter at academic conferences covering topics such as stigmatizing fundraising appeals for foreign aid agencies at the University of Toronto, self-determination workshops for the Ottawa, Kingston, and the Brockville Association for Community Living, recreation instruction for the Ontario Teachers Association, supporting parents with developmental disabilities for the Child Welfare League of Canada, recreation for persons with profound intellectual and multiple disorders at the AAIDD conference in Pittsburgh, and the Association for the Severely Handicapped in St. Louis.